Hello, hello, hello. It's Lillian Reiki here from Parent Support Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are tuning in live or catching the replay, it is awesome to have you here. So today we are up to episode 29 of Parent Support Network TV. So if you haven't caught any of my prior episodes, you're welcome to do so on my Parent Support Network TV page, or you can also see them on my YouTube page as well. So today I wanted to share a topic that's really come up from another post that I saw of a mum who was being really vulnerable and talking about, you know, some days in parenting world are just bad days, hard days where you really kind of lose your stuff, right? And let's face it, if we are a parent, I'm sure we can all admit that we have had days or moments in the day where we've really lost the plot. I know that, you know, for those of you who know my parenting journey, particularly that with my youngest son, who was diagnosed with ADHD, ODD, and childhood depression, that I lost the plot so many times. And if you saw that photograph on my Facebook page with the woman with her hair sticking up and her yelling, I can really relate to that image. Because sometimes parenting is hard and sometimes we just really do lose it. Even though we have, you know, all the absolute love in our heart for our child, we want the best for them, we want to be positive and encouraging and have unconditional love for them. Sometimes they push so many of our buttons and triggers, or we're just feeling escalated for, you know, sometimes it can be reasons outside of the child's, you know, domain. It could be, you know, stress from work or a relationship stress or a health stress or a financial or business stress. There are lots of things that actually put us into that sort of stage of, you know, that place of vulnerability and of feeling, you know, the extra pressure. Parenting, of course, brings upon itself its own, you know, stresses and pressures. And what I want to share with everybody is that, you know, if you're taking the time to listen into this, it means that, you know, you're wanting to educate yourself to be a better parent. So I just want to say, you know, I want to call out your greatness as a parent, that, you know, and that it is okay and that we all do lose the plot every now and then with our children. Oh my gosh, I can remember things that happened that I'm so ashamed of. I mean, I wasn't really a smacker, and I don't recall that ever happening, but I can remember saying things, excuse me, that I later regretted. I can remember yelling and screaming and threatening and, you know, wanting to punish by taking away privileges and you know, saying and doing things that really were not in alignment with who I wanted to be as a parent, or, you know, or just who I wanted to be as a person. So so go easy on yourselves. I mean, I guess the idea is that if you have identified that you've had a really stressful moment and you've perhaps done something in the moment that you've regretted, I think one of the biggest tips is just to be open and honest with yourself and also with your children. If they actually see you apologizing for, look, I'm really sorry, I just lost my stuff for a few minutes there, I was feeling a bit escalated, no need to put blame on them, you know, I was feeling a bit escalated and I really apologize that I lost the plot, you know, and I didn't want to yell at you or scream at you or do what I did, so I just want to let you know that I'm sorry. I think kids don't usually expect their parents to apologize, and often we feel like we shouldn't have to apologize. So why should we have to apologize? You know, we're the adult, we're the parent, they're the child. But, you know, showing your vulnerability to your children as well, I think is really, really important. And for any of you who follow along with my work in the Nurtured Heart approach, we have a really good component or stand that we take when we do need to get ourselves out of that feeling of negativity or, you know, stress or overwhelm into a more positive place. So just a quick recap. So the Nurtured Heart approach has 3 stands. So stand 1 is absolutely no. So that's giving little or no energy to the negative, and easier said than done. So let's assume in this example that you have given energy to the negative. The kids have really just pushed your buttons. They're arguing, they're fighting, they're not listening, they're not being cooperative, they're being disrespectful, and you've like, enough. And you just start yelling and screaming and threatening to take things away and, you know, do time out and all that sort of stuff, which we actually know doesn't usually work. But in those moments of frustration, sometimes we give all that energy to the negative situation. And I know in my parenting, particularly when my son was younger, I definitely did a lot of that. And I mostly regretted it. I mostly regretted, you know, that feeling of how it made me feel to lose it and to yell and scream, but also how it made, you know, my children feel. So stand one is giving little or no energy to the negative. And then stand two is absolutely yes, which is coming in and giving amazing, you know, beautiful, heartfelt, connected relationship and energy and connection to the situation. So actually acknowledging yourself and or your children for steps towards more positivity. So even if in the moments or the seconds prior, you know, stuff was really going down in a negative way, look for opportunities to even say to myself, okay, Lillian, I just want to acknowledge myself for calming myself down, for actually, you know, a few minutes ago, I was really escalated. I was really yelling and screaming, and now I'm calming myself down. I'm taking some deep breaths. I'm actually starting to, you know, come back into a place of positivity. So you can actually do that for yourself, or you can actually do it for your children as well, and actually acknowledge yourself for the steps, you know, that you've made to being in a more positive place. And then stand three moves on from that, which is absolute clarity. So first of all, it's having clarity around the rules and around the rules and the consequences. So if a child, you know, has broken a rule, if they've been disrespectful, okay, the rule is, you know, no swearing, or no talking back, or no, you know, no being disrespectful. If they've broken a rule, we have something called a reset. So you can use the reset in various ways. First of all, you can use the reset to let the child know that they have just broken a rule, and that they and give them the opportunity to reset themselves back into a place where they can move forward more positively. But even before that, if you're feeling escalated as the parent, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I just really want to scream and yell and, you know, run away from home type of thing, then you can reset yourself. And a reset is basically just taking a few deep breaths and really taking yourself, you know, away from that negative feeling. Just, you know, whatever you need to do, take a few deep breaths and really open your heart up and think about, you know, what is it I really want in this circumstance? What am I wanting to energize? Am I wanting to energize the way I'm feeling at the moment? Am I wanting to energize the negativity that's happening in the home at the moment? Am I wanting to energize the children's inappropriate behavior? Am I wanting to energize my feelings of frustration and anger and wanting to yell and scream? Or open your heart up, slow yourself down, just take a few deep breaths. Am I wanting to energize the children's behavior improving? Am I wanting to energize them being cooperative with each other, playing nicely with each other, listening, being respectful? Am I wanting to energize me being calm and able to, you know, to look at the situation in a more positive way? So really just pause, you know, take the time to really pause and reset yourself into a place where, you know, you feel that you can take a more positive step forward. Because if we stay in that escalated place where we're feeling angry, I can remember, you know, times where I felt like, you know, the steam was going to come out the top of my head. I felt so energized. And then by energizing the negative behavior of the child, their behavior becomes more escalated. You feel more escalated because of their more escalated behavior. And the whole situation is not very positive. Everybody's feeling very escalated. Everybody's feeling angry and cranky with one another. And it's not a really good place. And you can actually openly model the reset with your children by actually even saying, okay, Johnny, I'm feeling escalated at the moment because of what's just happened. I'm just going to reset myself. I would like to invite you to reset yourself as well, but regardless, I'm going to reset myself. So just turn away, or just, even if the kids are still there, maybe close your eyes and just take those deep breaths. Even if the yelling and the screaming and everything's still going on, reset yourself. Take those deep breaths, open your heart up, think about what it is you want, and then let the kids see you resetting yourself. And then once you've reset, come back into the space with a more positive mindset about, okay, I'm going to focus on what's going well here. And let's just say, for example, the kids haven't fully reset. They might still be arguing with one another, or they might still not be doing the right thing. But what have they done? Even the babyest step have they done compared to what was happening a few minutes ago? So you might say, Johnny, I know that you're upset with your sister. I know she ruined your game or your puzzle or knocked over your Lego. I understand that. And I understand that you are frustrated with her and perhaps angry with her for doing that. It wasn't a nice thing for her to do, perhaps. But you know what, Johnny? I can see that you are starting to calm yourself down. You're not as angry as you were before. You're starting to calm yourself down. And you know what that really shows me? That really shows me that you have great self-control, that you really do love your sister, even though at times she mucks up your games and things. So I just want to really acknowledge you for that absolute greatness of having compassion for your little sister, understanding that sometimes, she might not mean to muck up your game. She's only a little girl, and forgiving her for doing that. So I really want to acknowledge that in you, Johnny. Thank you so much for, calming yourself down and really regulating your feelings, even though you are upset. So that's actually acknowledging him. So he has seen you reset yourself. So you were feeling escalated. You felt like you would, you might have already screamed or yelled, or you might have felt like you were going to, but you took those deep breaths, you reset yourself, and then you just came back into the situation in a more positive place. If the kids hadn't, if the son was really at the same level still, he was still yelling and screaming and, maybe being physical with his sister because she mucked up his game, you can then just say, Johnny, I need you to reset. And then hopefully, if he understands the reset enough, it might just break that cycle of negativity a little bit for him to stop and, maybe take a few deep breaths himself, or just to take himself away from that situation. But really the best way of breaking that cycle is to acknowledge them for something, even the smallest steps. In the Nurtured Heart approach, we have a thing that we say, making miracles out of molecules. So you might find the smallest little molecule of improvement that you can see. Even if he was yelling and screaming at this level and he's taken it down to that level, you can still acknowledge him for, I can see you're starting to calm yourself down. And just by acknowledging him for that, instead of you yelling at him and screaming at him and, being angry with him, by acknowledging him for something positive, you've got a much higher likelihood of him calming himself down more. And then acknowledging him for finally, not yelling and not screaming. And then at the same time, you can also acknowledge the other child. So if the other child, for example, didn't retaliate, let's say they're having some sort of altercation or argument, as siblings often do, and one kid's got really, aggressive or yelling or, or maybe even getting physical with the other one, but the other kid really handled it well. You can actually then acknowledge the other child and then say, Susie, I love how you just handled yourself then with your brother. I know your brother was angry with you. He was yelling and screaming, and you might have felt that, that wasn't warranted. But I love the way you handled that. You didn't retaliate. You didn't yell and scream back. You didn't throw toys back at him. You just really handled that really well. And I want to acknowledge you for that. So that's both showing the child who was perhaps yelled at or maybe hurt by the sibling. That's acknowledging them for how well they handled that in the moment. It's also showing the child who was escalated that you're not prepared to energize the negativity, but that you're looking for the greatness, you're looking for the positive things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the child who's escalated will just stop all of a sudden, but they're like, hey, sister's getting some positive recognition over there. That's really nice. Hey, I usually get really yelled at when I do this, and I'm not at the moment. Mum just asked me to reset and calm myself down. Wow, this is, really, a different way. I'm used to mum yelling and screaming, or dad, or whoever the adult is at me, but I'm kind of liking, how this is going, and, that I'm being given the opportunity to actually just stop the negativity and then, come back into a more positive place. You've perhaps heard me talk in the past about the video game theory. So it's just like a video game where a kid's playing a video game, they're playing away, really engaged, having fun with the game. Then all of a sudden the character dies or something happens in the game and they get kicked out of the game. So, but the great thing about the video games is that in most video games, I believe you can reset again pretty quickly. So once you've been kicked out, you've been, whatever's happened in the game, you get the chance to reset. So we do the same with the children's behaviour. We give them the opportunity to reset themselves back to a place where they can move forward with more positivity. Now, you might be thinking, oh, yes, Lillian, this all sounds pretty simple. It is based on implementing all three of the stands. So you just can't go straight into stand 3 and expect this to work perfectly. Really, it's a way of communicating and relationshiping that once you learn this, it's how you will communicate and relationship ongoing. And yes, we'll muck it up, we'll make mistakes, but that's when we have to use the reset on ourselves and forgive ourselves for losing our cool. As long as we acknowledge that and go, okay, I just lost my cool, but I'm going to reset. And not only am I going to reset, but I'm going to do it in front of my children. So my children see that, hey, even big people, even mums and dads make mistakes. Even mums and dads lose their cool sometimes. But as long as we show them that we can reset and come back, into the game, into the relationship in a more positive way, then that modeling for the children is going to help them to learn how to self-regulate themselves as well. Because, many of us parents are not good at self-regulating either. We tend to just, explode and lose the plot probably more often than we should. So that's my message for today. First of all, don't beat yourself up if you do lose your cool with your kids or with anybody else that you care about, your partner, etc. You do have the reset. You do have the ability to reset yourself in that moment that you recognize that things aren't going the way you want. Always ask yourself, what is it I really want? What do I want from this relationship? What do I want in this moment that's happening or not happening? Focusing on what you want rather than focusing on all the stuff that you don't want, if that makes sense. So I would love to, in closing, would love to actually invite you along to one of our masterclasses where I share a little bit more about our journey and story and share a little bit more about the Nurtured Heart approach. So on Wednesday, July the 20th is our next parenting masterclass. And let me just get my little piece of paper here. I've called it this time, How to Positively Parent Neurodiverse or Intense Children to Improve Behaviour and Strengthen Connections. But really it's about, improving behaviour and strengthening all connections, whether that be with your neurotypical child, your neurodiverse child, with your partner, and even with yourself. So it's a whole new way of communicating and relationshiping. With this one, with a little bit more emphasis on the more intense and challenging children. So I'd love for you to join us on the next masterclass. It is free to join. You do have to register. I'll pop the registration link below. Once you have registered, you will then get an email with information that will tell you a little bit more about how the masterclass is going to be presented and shared and what you need to do to be able to join it. So that's it from me today. Lillian Reiki, parenting strategist from Parent Support Network, equipping parents to enjoy happy and healthy children and relationships on purpose. Thank you for tuning in, and bye for now.